Hello folks, welcome to another video. And yeah, I guess the weather's getting better. It's the last few days, well, I'd say last few weeks, it's actually been pretty chilly, cold, a lot cold at night than I would like. So I'll probably do some cigar smoking videos uh, coming up here. But in the meanwhile, I'm indoors. So so today is just going to be a comparison of gauges of wires and I guess I'm going to try to do a soldering demonstration. No, this isn't going to be one of those let me show you how to solder like a pro, or no, how to solder like a pro. I may goof up, I may mess up on the soldering part. So basically, I'm not going to solder the 20 gauge wire because this goes to my I guess a battery pack. But yeah, but this is basically a 20 gauge wire. Here's 18. Here's 18. Here is 16. Which 16 is kind of like the I guess like the universal go-to for speaker wires. 14. This is the preferred size I prefer to use if I'm going to replace speaker wires in the car, in the house. See this there's a 14. Yeah, this is 12, and this one is 10. And I don't really need to go any lower than 10 because once you hit 8, it's I don't really have much use for what I do for anything bigger than 10. And of course, most of us, buy soldering irons, getting the soldering because we need to solder some wires. Some wires came loose, and it would rather be in a speaker in the house, or a speaker in your car, or in my case, the wiring in your car. So the last guy owned the car, installed a headlight system that messed up all the wiring. You're like, man, I gotta solder this. And of course, people, I guess there's two camps in the, should you solder a car wire or should you crimp? I've always crimped. Like my motorcycle, I had to replace the back tail turn signal light, and I thought about soldering that, but I ended up crimping it. And this was years ago when I replaced it. And now I'm thinking about I probably need to open that up, solder it, and then do a shrink wrap. So instead of crimping it, do a solder and shrink wrap. And the reason people say that you should do a crimp is basically you put a tube. It's going to be like a plastic tube with a. It's basically a plastic tube with a metal or a copper insert, and then you're crimping the copper onto the wire, onto the plastic part of the wire, or onto the copper part of the wire, and that supposedly is more stable. Their reasoning is because a car shakes as it's moving, which it does, and the wires will shake and rattle, and enough shaking and rattle will undo the solder, or it will break at the weakest point of the solder. All right, so yeah, and my soldering wire I'll be using is a 1mm, and this one I bought it's almost gone. Let me take it off of the holder. I bought it like 6 years ago, and it's finally almost gone. So yeah, and of course I wrote the all this stuff on there so I can remind myself. This is leaded. This is actually I guess, like I said, I bought this years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, and because I first bought or lead free. I call it unleaded, a lot easier to say. And this is, so I got the 6040 leaded. Of course, it all has rosin core, tin lead, and yeah, this little bit left. So for this demonstration, I don't think I'll use up all of this. Okay, and I'm back. So here are basically what the wires look like untwisted, and they're yeah, and I try to get as close to 1/2 inch strip as possible. So I got my third arm. Let me twist. So when you, I guess, buy solder, of course, you know, a lot of people are worried about lead. And the thing about lead is that it tastes sweet, and that's one of the reasons why kids and animals, kind of like the reason why lead paint and pretty much all lead stuff, besides fishing, because I guess kids aren't eating fishing weights. But yeah, but the reason lead paint was banned is because kids were eating the paint chips. And when I say kids, I'm talking like really young kids. You know, the toddlers. You know, 2, 3, 4-year-olds, and probably even 5. And of course, you know, again, lead has that sweet taste to it. Not that I would know, I never tried eating or tasting lead. The Romans would actually line their water pipes. Yes, they actually had running water back in the Roman time. Yeah, they lined their water pipes with lead, because lead melts. Lead is easy to form; it melts easily. They also lined their vase. They kept water and such in with lead because it sweetened the water. And yeah, and as long as you don't eat lead, as long as you don't put this in your mouth and suck on it or eat it, you know, somehow, you know, get it into your food. I guess don't have a plate of food out here, you know, next to your wires while you're soldering, basically, you know, and you'll be fine. And again, the smoke that you see coming off of the soldering is the smoke is burning flux. Lead does not smoke unless it's boiling, and the boiling point for lead is somewhere around between 2,000 to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And with soldering, you're getting nowhere near that. So now you may get like close to halfway if you set your soldering iron all the way up to 900. Yeah, the Weller that I got goes up to 900, but I've never had to use it at 900. I may turn it up to 900 at first just to get the heat really hot, then I'll turn it down to like the 4th or 5th notch. And I think right now I got on the 5th notch. And yeah, and of course when you buy a bigger gauge wire, you'll see the abbreviation of CCA, which stands for copper cladded aluminum. And aluminum is softer than copper actually, and you can feel it too when you're twisting the kind of the 8. Well, this one is actually aluminum. What's weird is with my 18 gauge wire, I guess I'll do the copper. The negative side is aluminum, and then the positive side is copper. You know, I'll go ahead and stick with the aluminum. So the 18 and 16, these are pure copper, and when you get to the bigger one, like the 14 gauge, you can tell, but when you twist it, it's a lot softer feeling on your fingers. The 12 and 10 gauge, these are definitely copper cladded aluminum, and they do make the pure copper wires and with no aluminum in them. Those are expensive, and you know, if you're a professional installer, audio installer, or electronic installer for your customer, then you could, you know, for quality purpose, use and pay the extra money and get, you know, pure copper wires as opposed to copper cladded aluminum. Alright, so let's put it on the 3rd arm. Yeah, I'll do 2 at a time. Now some people like to, you know, do from the tip down to the down towards the plastic coating. I prefer to do it close to the plastic coating and then move towards the tip, because what I find is that sometimes you'll get like a little I'm trying to think of the word, like a little extra solder that's kind of like looks like it's dripping, and it's easier to clean off if it's at the tip than towards the plastic end. All right, and again, here it is, my Weller Let me turn my fan on, and you can use a little fan. This is a little USB fan. It's a lot quieter. Yeah, I mean it doesn't even and it does. And yeah, it has to be like really close. I do have a fume, what's called a what you call it? I forgot. Fume. Uh, don't I can't think of the word. So anyways, yeah, and this is the original tip that's on here, and this tip has lasted, pretty well actually. Just gotta take care of it. Like I said, I don't turn it up all the way to 900. That will definitely mess up the tip. Just put some solder on there, and this shouldn't take but 3 to 5 seconds. There you go. It's about 3 seconds. And so what I do is I work it back towards the plastic, and then I move it up to the tip, to the front. See here, yeah, it should take about 3 to 5 seconds. And the reason I use the fan is mainly to get the smoke out of my face. Yeah, and these smaller gauge, 18 and 16 gauge. And the reason I use the 1mm wire so that I don't have to go over it 2 or 3 times. One pass is enough. What are you doing, dog? Alright, let me... There we go. What do you want, doggy? So let's check it. See, yeah, because one of the things I find is that the... yeah, and if you do use the third arm to do your wire, you might want to... Of course, this is for demonstration purpose. I normally clip it like way behind, because the closer you clip it to where you're soldering, the heat does soften the plastic, and your alligator clip will leave teeth marks on your wire, because the heat softens the plastic, and you'll get that. Yeah, one of the other things I forgot to mention is, of course, when you're soldering, it's not a question of if, but when you're going to burn your finger or burn your hand. So this one is pretty good. It's got coating all the way around. Let's check out the that was the 18. Let's check out the 16 gauge wire. And again, this video isn't a do what I do, learn how to solder like a pro, learn how to solder a wire like a pro. And as I said, about 90% of us guys get a soldering iron because we need to solder wires. And go buy a spool of 50-foot, 100-foot wire, and do some practice before you actually do the wire. Yeah, you can. Luckily there are. You can, desolder a wire with the soldering wick. Yeah, this one is, all the way around. Yeah, and these wires have resin in them, or flux. Well, let's go to the next size. I'm going to try to clip it back a little bit further. Okay, so this will be the 14 and the 12. They're kind of close to each other. And as you can see, it's going to take a little bit longer, because the smaller wires take about 3 seconds before they started to melt the solder. And yes, and solder does conduct heat, so don't be afraid to put a bunch of solder onto your soldering iron. Let's see here. Yeah, let's go with this. Yeah, that's about 5 seconds. Yeah, and this one you can see that the wire melting. All right, now this will be the 12. This will take about 5 seconds too. And of course, for this, definitely use the chisel tip like what I'm using. You can use around the conical tip if you want, or if that's what you have. Because luckily for me, the welder comes with a chisel tip, but most will come with, what the heck? This is taking forever. And if you put flux on the wire, like the bigger wire. Flux actually attracts solder. See here. Yeah, that one took like, I'd say about 7 7 to 10 seconds for it to actually begin to melt the flux. Maybe I don't have the heat turned up high enough. Dog's barking. Doggy. Alright. Yeah, I don't have a very big house, so that's okay. We're not all rich. Or rich. Yeah, look at that. I put it back pretty far, and the wire still got heated enough to where it softened like 2 inches back, and it left the, and that's okay too, because as long as it doesn't go through the wire, you know, you'll be okay. Yeah, there's a little bit right here that didn't get covered, but that will still hold. So, what the? Yeah, yeah, this one I definitely screwed up on. The underside didn't even get coated. The top side got a pretty good coating. Underside didn't get coating at all. It got flux melted from the wire. I should have put flux on this. Actually, let me put it back on. Let's see here. Yeah, for thicker wire, you do want to use flux, because again, like I said, flux. Yeah, and the wire's cooled down, because the wire's still hot, it would actually melt the flux that I'm putting on here. There we go. Yeah, and of course, if the, yeah, for the larger wire, that's what you're going to run into, is that the top part will get. Yeah, and don't be afraid to feed in more solder. Yeah, look at that smoke, man. Yeah, you don't want all of that smoke in your face, so definitely have a little fan. Huh. Well, and that's the reason why I use paper towel. The plastic padding is heat resistant, and actually it is pretty heat resistant. But paper towel just makes it easier to clean. I just got to pick up the paper towel. And no, the flux the solder that falls down, it's not hot enough to catch the paper towel on fire. Fortunately. Yeah, this one's a weird one. I guess it was solder on there. It was just kind of a darkish looking color, and I thought it wasn't solder. Yeah, this is, of course, the solder I'm using is 6040 by 1. It's 6040 by 1.8% flux. So let me see what let me change it out. Yeah, so like I say, it's almost gone. I mean, look at that. It's just a little bit left on there. Let's see. Okay, I got my. Let me see here. You okay? Let's see. Well, come on, man. Kicking the camera and everything. Okay, so I'm switching it out to let's see here, 63. Yeah, that my old eyes. 6337, so 63% tin, 37% lead. So and it's well, this one. I know I have one that has 2%. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is this one is 6337 with 2% flux, and it should be a little bit shinier. Yeah, shiny. Doggy, what are you doing? All right. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need it for the 10 gauge. Yeah, and of course my third arm, the alligator clip, 10 gauge is about as big as it can go. Put some flux on it. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the solder in from the bottom, and you should see it sucking the solder up into the wire. For thicker wire, that's how I do it. And yeah, hold on. There we go. I had to adjust the yeah, and this is of course 1.5 millimeter. I don't know how big, I mean for plumbing. Okay, there it goes. 1, 2. Yeah, you can see it getting sucked into the wire, and this is why I like using bigger gauge wire. Well, yeah, as you can see, there you go, like a little drop of solder on the end of the wire there, and it was easier to clean up as opposed to the drop being towards the base of the wire.